Hey guys, um, just a little warning. This should be old hat by now. What's me anyway? Just a warning. I am running currently 101 temp right now. So not feeling too hot, but as usual, I want to do this. Um, excuse me, and I figure I can come back here and sit and talk about a few movies here for a little bit and enjoy your guys' company. So, hey, Dirk. Hey, Robert Long. Um, Dirk, you're asking Joe Spinell chat. Well, we're definitely going to be talking about one Joe Spinell movie, and I imagine you guys can figure out what this Joe Spinell movie is going to be. I actually wanted to not play the song, and there is a huge housefly flying around. If it's not the fruit flies, it's the damn houseflies. It never fails. Every time I go back here to do something. So I'm going to try not to slap at it, but I may have to get the fly swatter and kill the damn thing because I guess it's attracted by my light up here. And so, anyway, um, we are definitely going to. Heck on, that thing's driving me crazy. Um, Oh, but what I was saying is we're definitely going to talk about one Joe Spinell movie, and I can guarantee that you guys know which one I'm talking about. And I actually wanted to have a little bit different intro for this one because you know that song Manic Monday. Um, that actually came into my mind today whenever I was thinking of an idea for a stream. And that's why I called it Manic Monday instead of, I said I could call it Maniac Monday, but that just sort of seemed a little cliche. So I decided on Manic Monday. And you know, the song is, it's just another manic Monday. Wish it was Sunday. That's my fun day. You know how we always feel at the end of like our weekend and we have to start the work week. Um and so Magnificent Monday too. Well, sometimes men elect, yes. Yeah, Dirk, wish it was Sunday. Yeah, I'm not gonna sing for you guys because I think my singing is horrendous, but I did speak a little bit of the lyrics of Manic Monday. But that is the song that I originally wanted to use, but I wasn't feeling that great all day. I actually did not work today, even from home because I got up entirely meaning to go back here to my desk and work from home. Uh, and I'm sure Steve thought I was just trying to avoid talking with the HR people today. No, that was not my intention because the inevitable is going to happen anyway, regardless of whether I was on the clock today or I'm going to be on the clock tomorrow. They're going to get me at some point. So I suspect when I get up tomorrow and get everything turned on for work, the computer and everything get remoted into my computer at work, get my email up, there is invariably going to be an email from Cindy in HR. So, you know, I'm not really avoiding anything. No, I really felt that bad. Um, and and so I just contacted my supervisor, said I'm having a bad day health wise. I will be unable to work. And she thanked me and said she hoped I felt better. And so that was that. So um yeah, I'm gonna actually put this up here, Menelect. You say HR should not be a terrifying experience, but it is. It really is for many, and that is truth. I mean, I guess in my case, I'm not really terrified. I'm tired of all the BS, and I'm not directing this towards you, Menelect, at all because you did say that you were a former HR director at one time. Um, and I'm sure you had policies that you had to follow and all that jazz. But I just this literally in my entire work career, this is the worst HR department I've ever, ever had to deal with. And I've had to deal with HR departments that I never actually thought they were that bad. This one in particular has been really bad. Perhaps just because I'm asking for something that they don't want to give me. So I guess it's more of an aggravation for me in general, rather than a terrifying experience. I am exhausted of dealing with it. And it's taking more of a toll on my health of having to deal with going back and forth with them. I just want it to be over at this point. Whatever the outcome is, I'm ready for it to be over with and done. Um, so enough about that, I guess. Dirk, you say, I remember the Bangles back when MTV was cool. Exactly. Yeah. When MTV was cool before Teen Mom and all this other shit that's on there, when it was music videos. Uh, hey, Texas. Um, John, you are totally not prying. I get what you're saying. I assume you mean by PCP, primary care physician. I did go to my primary care physician. She is actually the one who can't even talk, filled out my last HR requested ADA paperwork. Here's the deal though. They talk like when I was originally diagnosed that this was going to be part of this long COVID of having fevers like this. Thankfully, my fevers, I don't think they've ever got up to 104. I think 103 is probably the highest they ever got. And I can get them to come down with, either prescription ibuprofen or over the counter ibuprofen. Um, and so I did finally get into my steady primary care physician, the one that I've been going to, the one that Steve goes into. Sorry if I didn't make that clear, like, I don't know, a couple of streams ago, but seriously, I appreciate everything everybody is suggesting to me and telling me and all this. Very um it is very exhausting for me, not, not just the HR stuff, but just the day to day of dealing with this. It'll be at 101 and then it'll go back to normal. And then and I've been telling the doctor, and I told the nurse practitioners at the little clinic the same damn thing. I said, I take the medicine, it makes it go down, but then the further out it goes and it's time for another dose of medicine, it starts creeping back up. Sometimes it's not 101. It has been 102. Um, and then sometimes it's just 100 or 99.9 or, but all of that pretty much, unless it's like 98, is registering as a fever on the thermometer. So, and I try to check my temp at least 4 times a day, about 6 hours apart. Um, but yeah, you say a 101 fever this far out. Damn, I know that's obvious, and you're probably thinking, no shit, I tried, but really, hope you can get a steady doctor. So, also, and I don't think I brought this up, my primary care physician finally sent me a link to the portal. This is how Steve gets in contact with we both go to the same doctor. How he gets in touch with her. You literally cannot get in touch with anybody at that office by phone. You can just forget about it. So, um, this portal will enable me to interact directly with our primary care physician. So I should no longer have problems connecting up with her and saying, hey, I need to get an appointment. Hey, I need prescriptions refilled. Hey, I need this, that, and the other. So I should be good, but I thank you, John. You definitely were not praying. You believe they played at the 89 Super Bowl, Dirk? Heck, I don't even remember the 89 Super Bowl. My dad might. Uh, like you say, HR's decisions are very often driven by supervisor desires or executive leadership. HR is often the face of the beast. Yeah, see, that's what I can't figure out, Menelec, is prior to me asking for any accommodations, I was purely dealing with, or almost purely dealing with, my supervisor and my manager. And at that point in time, it seemed fine. Um, the problem came about when I started asking for reasonable accommodations to work from home because of mental health issues. That's when everything kind of blew up and got nasty. Because I don't know if they didn't believe me that I have mental health issues that are that bad that require working from home, or they didn't think that my therapist and my psychiatric nurse practitioner, who I both see, both of them, if they were not knowledgeable enough. They told me at that point in time that it was a collaborative effort between them, my supervisor. Yeah, them and my supervisor. There were two people from HR and then my supervisor. I don't think my manager was involved at all in that. But prior to me asking for the ADA reasonable accommodations to work from home on a daily basis, uh, before that, I was primarily dealing with the long COVID, and I had talked to my supervisor and my manager and one member of HR. At that point in time, they were letting me give them a note, or give my supervisor and manager a note every month, and that was good. My manager said that's what his preference was. That's what I was doing. But the second I brought mental health issues up, everything just kind of backfired. And at that point, HR took away any agreement I'd already had with my supervisor and my manager, and they took it all over. So that's what I've been dealing with so I don't know who's lying here. I don't know if my supervisor and manager are lying. I don't know if HR's lying. I don't know if it's a little bit of both. I just have no idea. The other option would be it is executive leadership. It's the president of the bank or whoever that's making these rules. But I hope I don't sound mean and hateful and nasty, because that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to merely to explain. Um, Johnny said 101, I'd be in bed asking Becca to ride my wheel. There have been times to this whole thing with me not feeling bad. With me feeling bad and not feeling like people were believing me, having to deal with the HR business, having to deal with this, that, and the other, that all I want to do is just lay there and cry, because it is just so difficult to deal with. But I hope it doesn't get that bad, because, honestly, guys, I'm not ready to leave this earth just yet. Like you say, Teen Mom isn't popular. It's not popular with me. It might be popular as hell with some people. Thank you, 71. I've been hoping for months that I would feel better, but thank you, really. Um, you say good luck finding competent doctors. Mine sucks. Actually, my primary care physician, she's a competent doctor. It's just she's too nice is the thing. And Steve and I were talking about this not very long ago, is the fact that she doesn't want to say no to anybody. So she's went way past the point where she should not be taking new patients, and she continues to take new patients. Therefore, the patients she already had that were established patients, like me and Steve, and I'm sure several others, are just kind of getting pushed by the wayside. And I'm sure that's not her intention, but that's what's happening. And essentially, we're getting ignored in favor of these new patients that she keeps taking on. The other problem is, even though she's a very good primary care physician, she kind of has like a side business where she gives, I don't know what they call it, some kind of vampire or something or other, where they inject, I don't know if it's new blood or some kind of serum into you that's supposed to keep you looking younger. And there's other things that she's doing that's kind of like a side business to her normal doctoring that she does. And so that takes time and energy, takes her away from the office, the primary office sometimes. Yeah, well, see, that's what's happened. I don't know if you heard me say this earlier, but you literally cannot reach my doctor by phone. The only way that you can reach them is through this portal, which thankfully, my husband kept asking, kept asking. He says he can get on the portal, he can contact Carla, our doctor, and everything, and that's literally the only way he can contact her. So they finally sent me a link to the portal. I just need to hurry up and get set up on it. Johnny said, I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe if anything, you'll be immune to this shit. But now you should be the one they get vaccines from. Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe they could use me for that. If they want to pay me for that, that would be great. If I lose my job at Stockyards, I may need to, give my blood or whatever so they can make some vaccines. Uh, Tony said, I'm just being silly. I know that's not how it works, of course. Well, yeah, but it's a nice theory, though. Hey, TJ. Dougie said, yeah, 89 Super Bowl was Bengals and 49ers with Joe Montana. The Bengals was a big deal back then. You got a better brain than I do, Dirk. Texas, you say, Prince wrote Manic Monday under one of his pseudonyms, Christopher. Hey, I think I remember that. I remember somebody talking about that. Wow, 71. You say I'm usually at 96 to 97 hypothermia daily. That's not good either. Phew, man. Um, Dirk, you say, I think the shotgun blast head explosion scene is my favorite head explosion of all time. It's pretty damn good, and Tom Savini got the pleasure of blowing his own head off. Uh, 71, you say, I have symptoms of Lyme disease, and my doctor won't give me an antibiotic, and I can't get blood work to get down there for 3 weeks to a month. See, that's something. I'm glad you brought up the stuff about antibiotics, guys. I promise we're going to get to movies here shortly. Um, but they don't want to give you antibiotics for basically. I mean, it's very hard to get antibiotics, and I had to really push when I got COVID, and the symptoms were lingering. This was at first. And I just kept thinking, well, if I get an antibiotic, this will kick this out and I'll feel better and everything will be fine. And they gave me some antibiotics, but they told me that we don't have much hope that this is going to help any. But we'll give them to you. We'll let you try them, because the other time that worked to kick out whatever I had, but I didn't have long COVID, excuse me, at that point. So, yeah, I totally get that. They basically don't want to give antibiotics for anything now. 71, you say, I have to look online to find out that Claritin kills Lyme disease. I did not know that, but thank you for sharing that, because people might need to know that. Yep, Dirk, I think I remember that too. The corpse at the end was the Bessie Palmer corpse in Friday the 13th. Because, of course, Tom Savini did the special effects for both. I like your useless knowledge, TJ. You said the Bengals' original name was the Bangs. In 71, you say, I got Clarendon and it's clearing me out and crossing my fingers. The studies were right that they did. Well, I hope you continue to improve. Um, TJ, you said that sucks 71. So sorry. Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm really, I always had, some empathy, sympathy, whatever you want to call it, for people that were dealing with this type of stuff. But now, even more so. Just, excuse me, I've been sick for so long. In 71, you said, thankfully, a friend found out online this Claritin works for some. Durkee say, that lead chick I had a huge crush on, LOL. Never knew her name, just remember her Egyptian walking. Hey, Ryan. Hey, old curly jaws. I'm laughing because this is kind of similar to what the comment that you put on my advertising for this. You say this might be my top 5 worst horror movies ever made. Okay, but here's the good thing, old curly jaws. Maybe you won't hate all of them I'm going to talk about tonight, because we're not just going to talk about Maniac tonight. I got 6 other movies here that I'm going to be talking about, and hopefully that you will like at least some of those. Texas, you say, Dirk, that's Susanna Hoffs. I met her once at a record store I worked at. She's tiny. Dirk, you say, oh, Curly, settle down on that shit. Okay, so I think I'm caught up on the chat. So y'all continue to put things in the chat. We got 12 people in here now. I've been blabbing for about 25 minutes. We are going to get to the 7 movies I want to talk about tonight. I'm going to try not to talk about them for too awfully long and not make this like and I'm not trying to like say that I'm beautiful. That's not why I keep doing this to my hair. It's just I'm looking at myself on camera and it's like, what the hell? My hair just seems like it's sticking out sideways, and I keep trying to fix it, because that's one thing. If you can see yourself on camera, you notice every flaw, every hair out of place. It's just crazy. Um, but I did want to bring up something that I watched today. Actually, I watched a couple of things today because I wasn't working. Um, let's see. Oh, Curly Jaws, you say, I'm not a big fan of Killers Without Masks, and this one just bored me. Oh, you're going to get Dirk wound up, oh, Curly Jaws. 7 movies of death tonight. Texas, you say at TJ, they released one single as the Bangs called Getting Out of Hand. Dirk, you say Spinell didn't need a mask. Let's look at that beautiful, ugly bastard, old Curly. He definitely, Joe Spinell had that creep, that sleazy creep factor. He did have that. John, you say this ain't Joe Spinell's best role though. That goes to Rocky Half. Yo, Rock, you ever considered investing in condominiums? I've never used them. I did like Joe Spinell in. You're saying Rocky 1 and 2. Sorry about that, John. Read that wrong. But I did like his character in the Rocky movies. TJ, you say, glad I'm not the only one with that kind of info, Texas. Uh, Texas, you say, she was really sweet. I gave her a fanzine I used to do. Hopefully she didn't throw it in the trash. I doubt she did, Texas. I doubt she did. So the 2 things that I wanted to talk about that I watched today, I hope they don't bum anybody out. But one of them I've been wanting to watch for a while now, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And now it's popped up on YouTube of all places, you know. And the other one was already on YouTube, but I just now got around to watch it. But the first one I wanted to talk about, and these are both, little warning here, both are dark in the subject matter. Um, the first one is kind of a close to home thing for me, especially since I live in Louisville now. And that's the Carrollton bus crash. And I don't know how many of you in the United States have heard of this. Um, but the Carrollton bus crash has been listed as the worst, I guess, drunk driving related crash in the United States. And it happened in 1988, I believe, May of 1988. Um, Several kids of varying ages. You had some that were only 10 years old. There were some that were 15. There were some that were in their upper teens, almost 20. And then I believe there were a few adults on there, including the bus driver, who was the father of one of the survivors of this bus crash. And you know, I actually didn't hear about the Carrollton bus crash until like later on in life. This is not something that I remember hearing about until much, much later. I'm sure my parents heard about it because they would have been in 88. I would have been approximately 12 years old, probably 11 when the bus crash actually happened because my birthday's not till June. And I would have been right around the same age as a lot of the kids that died that day, which is so sad. Um, and when I think about that, it's just painful and disturbing and a lot. But the whole story about this is painful and disturbing. Um, and I'm hoping Brandon's going to go lay down. I hear him moving around back there and stuff, but hopefully he's going to go lay down here in a little bit. Bless his heart. But I believe that a few years back, I was thinking this is back when Dead Pit was still doing those things at the Strand Theater, that like they had Madman there, and they had a few other movies that they screened there at the Strand. And I thought, and I'd probably have to ask Wes just to be sure, but I was thinking that he was going to stream, or not stream, that he was going to show um, something about the Carrollton bus crash, and I don't know if it was this Impact documentary. Brandon, hon, I wish you'd go lay down. I don't know if it was Impact after the crash that I just watched today or not. Um, I want to say that actually was made in like 2013 or something like that, but I don't know if it took a while to come out or what the deal was with it. But some of the survivors from the bus crash, at least one or two of them, made this documentary and did the interviews with some of the other survivors and family members of people of either survivors or some of the kids that had died. And some adults died. I believe 3 adults died, including the bus driver. Um, so if Wes comes in here, I will ask him about that just to verify. But anyway, the story of this bus crash is this. There was a church group that I guess every year they went to Kings Island and they had, I guess, a springtime church group outing, and they would go to Kings Island, which everybody knows is in Ohio, and they would spend the day there and then come back to the church, and the parents would pick up their kids. Well, this was the first year that they opened it up to other kids outside of their church. And this was the a church in Radcliffe, Kentucky. I can't remember if they called it the First Assembly of Christ or what exactly it was. I apologize for not knowing that. But anyway, so some of the kids that already belong to this church invited friends and stuff like that to come with them. So there were a total of 67 people on this bus. And, they went to Kings Island. They had a great day. Some kids had stuffed animals, helium balloons, all that type of stuff that you would normally get at somewhere like Kings Island. And one girl in particular had a very large helium balloon that she ended up pulling into her lap because somebody had a window open. It was kind of bouncing around. So she pulls it down into her lap, leans her head on, or, her face on it, and kind of goes to sleep because I don't think they left Kings Island until 9:30. They left when the park closed and they were headed on their way home. They were on Highway 71 or Interstate 71 at about 10:55 at night. Larry Mahoney they referred to him as a country boy. And he was very well liked. He was a nice person. They said he would do anything for anybody. But the guy, unfortunately, did have a drinking problem. And he would work at his job, and then this was his routine. He would work at his job, and then he would stop at a bar and drink. Now, I guess maybe he did a little drinking at a bar and then ended up at a friend's house where there was more drinking going on. Originally, they took his keys, but they gave them back to him if he would promise to go home, to go straight home. It's like, I had to question this too. What kind of friend gives you your keys back and trusts that an intoxicated person is just going to drive home? Unfortunately, for everyone involved, especially the unfortunate uh, people that died on that bus, um, Larry Mahoney did not go home. He went right instead of left, or left instead of right, or something. Ended up on Interstate 71. He was really only 5 miles away from his house. Made a wrong turn while intoxicated. Ended up going the wrong way in the wrong lane on Interstate 71, which is a busy interstate anyway. Hits the bus head on. His vehicle kind of spins out of control, and they showed his truck. And it was torn up pretty bad, but he was okay. He escaped with not very bad injuries. He may not even have a scratch. I don't know for sure specifically. But had that, this was bad enough that he struck the bus. And there probably would have been some injuries anyway because of this accident. But you're dealing with a small Toyota truck versus a school bus. But unfortunately, in this case, and I was angry when I heard this. And, the guy shouldn't have been driving drunk. People shouldn't have given him his keys back, yada, yada, yada. That shouldn't have ever happened. But here's the other thing. This particular bus, there have been a lot of changes since that horrifying crash that have happened to school buses. At this point in time, there were only two exits, the front way, and there was a back emergency exit. Now school buses have a total of 9 exits on them, and that's all because of this really um, bad crash. And so The other thing was you only had two exits to get out of this bus, the front and the back. The other thing is, and they showed this in close-up detail on this documentary, the gas tank was number one in the front, near the front of the bus. Number two, it did not have the safety enclosure. The gas tank was completely open. So when Larry Mahoney's vehicle hit the bus, something jabbed into the gas tank. Oh, the other change they made was the buses went from gas to diesel. I don't know for sure if diesel is not as flammable or what, but anyways, but for whatever reason, the Ford Motor Company that made these buses chose voluntarily not to put this cage around the gas tank. So during the crash, somehow something must have come loose on the bus, punctured the gas tank. It erupted in flames. And they specifically said in this documentary, more than likely, if the bus had been made properly and safely, that all those kids and adults would have lived, which made me so angry. I mean, the drunk driving stuff is bad enough. The guy shouldn't have been doing it. Some people should have been more responsible and not let him have his keys back. Like I said, yada yada yada. We went through that. But that guy made a terrible choice that night. But that wasn't the only thing that went wrong. Because once this, like I said, once the gas tank got punctured, the whole bus basically erupted in flames. The girl that was leaning on her helium balloon, the fire caused that helium to explode in the balloon. They showed her on this documentary. She is burned from, like, you can see burns from her neck down. You can see them on her arms and all that. One girl had to have her leg amputated. She survived, but had to have her leg amputated. She's got a prosthesis now. There's one guy that was very badly burned on his face. There were other people that had various other injuries. 40 total survived. 27 died. And, I don't think I can sit through this documentary again because it was horrifying just to hear these survivors talk about what they saw as they were leaving the bus. They literally had to climb over charred bodies of their friends to get out. And if they had not done this, they wouldn't have survived either. So very, very powerful, but very disturbing and dark documentary. But I would recommend, as long as you're not overly sensitive, if this stuff is going to disturb you and give you nightmares, I would say don't watch it. But otherwise, I'd highly recommend it. So let me read some of these comments. Somebody might not even be hearing what I'm saying about this documentary. Because we're down to 9 people now. Let's see. Doug, you say, hell yeah, Texas, that's cool as hell. $71 is asking Texas, what's a fanzine? And Dark. Texas gives a good explanation of fanzine. It's a self-published magazine. Mine was about punk rock bands I would interview in the 80s and 90s, which I think is really, really cool. Red, you say, you did say you might stream tonight. I was watching The Neighborhood and Becker. Yeah, I did say I might stream tonight, Red, and I'm glad that you're here. TJ, you said, that's pretty awesome, Texas. Love classic punk. Texas, you say, I interviewed a lot of hardcore bands like SNFU, Anti-Scene, The Creamers, Rancid Fat, among others. 71 says, wow, you had a cool job. Texas, you say, I did it for free pretty much. I was just lucky to get to know people at labels, or I'd write to the bands, etc. So now we're back up to 12. I may have depressed people or turned people off by talking about that bus crash. But actually, there is a memorial for those people that perished in the horrible bus accident. There's also a sign on Interstate 71, and I saw it when Steve and I were coming back from Horror Hound this past time, because I saw signs for Carrollton, and I was like, Steve, isn't that in Carrollton where that bad bus crash was? And I said, I thought there were some signs around here somewhere, and Steve pointed out the actual sign that's supposed to be at the spot where the crash happened. TJ, you said that documentary is some Final Destination stuff. Sad. You talking about the impact after the crash documentary, TJ? It is, it's, I wouldn't watch it when I was already depressed. Plus, one of the survivors, Quentin Higgins, he goes around talking to different, doing talks at different schools and stuff like that, trying to discourage people from drinking and driving and doing drugs and all of that. Hey, Wes, you are in here. You said the streak continues, boss. Diner. So, Wes, since you're in here, I don't know if you heard me talking about the documentary Impact after the crash, about the Carrollton bus crash. I was watching that today. Was that the thing that you guys were going to show at the Strand, or was that something else about the Carrollton bus crash? Or am I completely crazy? Were y'all not planning on doing something like that? I could have sworn that it was in relation to the Carrollton bus crash. TJ, you say yes, Dana. Okay. Okay. So, guys, I will be right back. I'm not going to put up the background. I'm just going to step away and go refresh my drink here. And I will be back. Okay. So the one you're talking about was the one in Floyd County. Okay, in the 50s. Now, was that the one in 58? Because I saw something about a 1958 bus crash. Something about chilling photos or something from it. What did you say you're watching? Mercenary Fighters from Code Red. It's a real piece of shit, but the transfer is good. So before I get to the movies, the other thing I wanted to talk about, and Wes, I know you hate pretzels, but I gotta eat them. Okay, you say, I think it was 58. The movie was called The Very Worst Thing. Maybe when I'm feeling, I wouldn't want to watch two of these things in one day because watching that stuff about the Carrollton bus crash was bad enough. So I may try to see if I can locate that one. Um, but I would, if you're really sensitive to this stuff and would have nightmares, like I said, I really wouldn't recommend you watching the impact after the crash about the Carrollton bus crash. But it is a really well made documentary, although a lot of the subject matter is dark and disturbing, of course. Ways you say it's a real downer, I wouldn't watch it again. I think that's how this impact one was as well. It was just very, very disturbing. I mean, it had a few like moments of that were uplifting, but the majority of the documentary centered around the bus crash and the descriptions that the kids that made it out, what they saw and witnessed and had to experience even themselves, with some people getting burned really bad. It was just, I don't know. I was almost crying during a lot of it. But again, I'm not saying it's not a good, very well made documentary. So the other thing I watched today was also disturbing and dark, but ridiculous at the same time. Was oh, hold on here. I totally forgot the name of it, and I just watched it. Dream Deceivers was what I watched. And for anybody that doesn't know, when I was talking about traces of death last night, I believe it was Texas that brought up, he asked, was the whole James Vance thing, was that about the suicide over Judas Priest music? And I said, I don't know. Let me look that up. And indeed it was. So James Vance and his best friend made a suicide pact because they claimed, or at least, the guy Ray, he can't talk for himself because he shot himself with a shotgun and died. James Vance was horribly disfigured, but he lived a few years after it and then died of a methadone overdose. But like I said, he was horribly disfigured, and so they spend a lot of time talking to him and his family. There's also kind of a courtroom drama thing where you actually see the members of Judas Priest, including lead singer Rob Halford, um, in the courtroom, and even Rob Halford coming up there with a little boom box or whatever to show everyone that their music um, did not have subliminal messages telling people to commit suicide. Um, there was one song, Let me look that up because I want to give the right information. There was a Judas Priest song called Better by You, Better Than Me. You can see it on YouTube. Um, here's like the first group of lyrics. You could find a way to ease my passion. You listen to the blood flow in my veins. You hear the teaching of the wind. Tell her why I'm alive within. I can't find the words. My mind is dead. It's better by you, better than me. Okay. So pretty, I mean, although dark sounding, they're pretty straightforward lyrics. But James Vance told his mother, and he was convinced that there were subliminal messages in that song saying, do it, which to him meant kill yourself. I don't know why or how they got that out of the song. And I really don't want to dig that deep to try to get down where they were at that level. So, he honestly believed that there was a subliminal message saying do it. There's this ridiculous scene in the film where the uh, prosecution, they're literally trying to prosecute Judas Priest for the death of one boy and the disfigurement of another. They're trying to show the judge that yes, this music has subliminal messages. It's clear the judge doesn't hear it. We can't hear it as an audience. I certainly couldn't. And they just keep going, bringing it back, trying to make it say do it in there. Then the lawyer for, or one of the attorneys for James Vance's family was saying, "Oh, it was a great thing that happened today. We got Rob Halford to admit after he'd already said there were not backwards messages in their music, that yes, there are backwards messages in their music." I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? It's still not a backwards message saying do it. And so there was a lot of ridiculous stuff like that, you know. And James Vance's mother is Looney Tunes. I mean, if the woman's still alive, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about what happened to your son. But here's a woman that either she didn't marry James's father or they got divorced. She got with a different guy. This guy was an alcoholic. He had a gambling problem. He physically abused her. He admitted on the documentary that he hit James with his fists to get him to admit to smoking weed. And I'm like, and these are responsible parents. And then they would show them in church and they'd be raising up their hand. Well, the mother was raising up her hand. I'm not making fun of anybody in church, but like when you're going to do all that jazz, and then when they're asking you on the stand, did your husband do this? Did your husband do that? And then she gets all defensive. It just doesn't gel with me. So in any event, they didn't win that case. And then unfortunately their son James, like I said, died of a methadone overdose like a couple of years later. So if we're interested in that story in particular, then I would say watch Dream Deceiver, but be prepared for a little bit of foolishness to be mixed in there. It's like what Texas said last night, that satanic panic business and and all of that is I mean, that's what's at the core of a lot of that stuff. Um so it's not a very long um, I guess documentary, maybe. Um, but if you just want to see just how crazy things got at one time, that's one to watch. So that was two things I watched today when I was unable to work. About the Carrollton bus crash and also about the suicide of Ray Belknap and the attempted suicide of James Vance. So, yeah, now that I brought everybody way down, we only have 7 people in here now. I thought we're about an hour. Well, let's get into the movies here. And as I promised old Curly Jaws, if he's still in here, we're not just going to talk about Maniac because evidently he hates Maniac. And no, we're not going to talk about the remake of Maniac. We're actually going to talk about the original one with Joe Spinell. Texas, you say that court trial was a farce. Yeah, I mean, it definitely was when you watch it. So these are not in any particular order, like from like my favorites, or like I'm going to do a 7 to 1, and then one's going to be my favorite. No, these are just literally pulled off my shelf from a list of movies supposedly about maniacs. Some of them, of course, that were on some of these lists were a lot of new movies, some of which I had no interest in going and watching. So I basically tried to pull out ones that I had already seen and enjoyed. And also, I tried to pull some from these lists that I either had not talked about or had not talked about for a while or had not talked about much. Um, but anyway, we're just going to go ahead and get started with the first one. TJ, you say, we need to hook up Curly to a lie detector test. Ha ha. The first one, I'm sorry, my cough has also been bad or worse today. The first one I'm going to talk about, actually, I consider it having 2 maniacs in it instead of 1. So you get 2 for the price of 1. And that is The Silence of the Lambs with Jodie Foster, Anthony Hopkins, and Scott Glenn. And it's directed by Jonathan Demme. And this is the 4K, which, again, looks really, really good, in my opinion. This is the Kino Lorber release as well. So some of the rest of you might have it. So, Silence of the Lambs. This is a movie that I've watched several times over the years. I saw it probably around the time of its release. I don't recall going to the movie theater and seeing it. I think it was probably on VHS. It's from 1991. It's about a couple of minutes shy of being 2 hours, so definitely not a short film. So I'm going to give a little bit of a plot synopsis for it. I don't think I have to give a really long plot synopsis of it, because I think most everybody has at least heard of Silence of the Lambs. So, screen legends Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins deliver sensational Oscar-winning performances in this spellbinding thriller based on the best-selling novel by Thomas Harris, who also did Red Dragon and Hannibal. A psychopath nicknamed Buffalo Bill, played expertly by Ted Levine of Heat, is murdering women across the Midwest. Believing it takes one to know one, the FBI sends trainee Clarice Starling, Jodie Foster, from the accused, to interview a demented prisoner who may provide clues to the killer's actions. That prisoner is psychiatrist Dr. Hannibal Lecter, played by Anthony Hopkins, a brilliant diabolical cannibal who agrees to help Starling only if she'll feed his morbid curiosity with details of her own complicated life. And he keeps saying, quid pro quo, Clarice, quid pro quo, which means, you give me a little information about your messed up life, and I'll give you some information that'll help you fight Buffalo Bill. So, sorry guys to be eating while I'm trying to do this, but I did need a little sustenance. As the relationship develops, Starling is forced to confront not only her own hidden demons, but also an evil so powerful that she may not have the courage or strength to stop it. This terrifying masterpiece co-stars Scott Glenn from The Challenge and garnered 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, director for Jonathan Demme, who also did Philadelphia, which is another great film with Tom Hanks. An adapted screenplay for Ted Talley, before and after. So, amazing film, with or without the 4K. This is still an amazing film. I was blown away by it when I first saw it. Dirk's still in here. He says, hell yeah, TJ. But there is one scene in particular that I did not, when I rewatched it again recently, I did not recall Jodie Foster's character, Clarice Starling, and Dr. Lecter, Hannibal Lecter, played by Anthony Hopkins, having the conversation about the lambs when she was a kid. Even though this is called The Silence of the Lambs, I just did not realize that powerful conversation. Now, I don't know how I missed it, honestly. But so here's where, Anthony Hopkins' character of Hannibal Lecter is trying to get information about Jodie Foster's disturbing or messed up childhood. And then she gives him a little bit and he'll give her a little bit of information. So he's asking her about stuff, and then she gets to talking about how she was on a farm growing up, and I wanted to say she was with her aunt and uncle, but I could be wrong. And they had lambs, and they would slaughter the lambs. And she decided one day she was going to run, or one night she was going to run away with one of the lambs to prevent it from being slaughtered. Unfortunately, that did not happen. And she was talking about the sound that the lambs would make prior to being slaughtered. And I just thought that scene was as chilling as anything else that could happen in the film, including all the Buffalo Bill stuff. Yes, they were screaming. Yes, exactly, TJ. Darky says, Silence of the Lambs is my 4th favorite film of all time. I remember seeing it in a theater and will never forget that viewing. I almost wish I had been able to watch it in a theater, Dirk. Unfortunately, I didn't get the pleasure of doing that. But this film still, even to this day, holds up. I mean, this is a film that came out in 91. We're in 2022 right now. And I think you could put this on for anybody and they wouldn't even realize it was a 1991 film unless they were looking at things like technology and stuff like that from 1991. The film works that well. Oh, I almost forgot about that, Aaron. You say, was she a great big fat person? That line always gets me. Yeah. So again, I think Jodie Foster was perfect in her role. I think Anthony Hopkins was perfect in his role. And definitely Ted Levine was perfect as Buffalo Bill. This is one of those nearly perfect casts. And everybody seemed to be on their game. Everybody obviously worked very hard on this film. And so I can't really say anything bad about this movie. If you guys can think of anything bad, feel free to put it in the chat. Aaron, you say in the Lecter lines, was she big around the hips, roomy? All the stuff is starting to come back to me more and more as you're saying that. Yes, Ryan. And the Buffalo Bill line, it puts the lotion on the skin or it gets the hose again. That gives me cold chills every time I hear it. And that is why I said at the beginning, this movie to me has two maniacs in it. It not only has Hannibal Lecter, but it has Buffalo Bill in it. It's like, damn, guys. TJ, you say, really? A great movie. I actually haven't seen any of the sequels. Well, you know what? I think maybe I've seen maybe one of the sequels all the way through, but Silence of the Lambs is the one that, like I said, is nearly perfect. It hits all the bases. Really super well made film. You know, at this point in my life, I don't feel like I need all those sequels. Silence of the Lambs would have been good as just a standalone film, in my opinion. Yeah. Senator loved the suit, lol. Yeah, you know, this movie has so many great and quotable lines that people are still quoting today. Look at us. Um, one that you guys haven't put up there yet is I ate his liver with some fava beans and some nice Chianti. And then he does the thing, you know. And it's just like, that's Anthony Hopkins at his best, you know. I mean, I literally could not imagine anybody else in the role of Hannibal Lecter. Ryan, you say, amputate a man's leg and he can still feel it tickling. Tell me, Mom, when your little girl's on the slab, where will it tickle you? Yeah, I'm like, it's almost scary that what kind of demented person first would come up with these lines. And then to hear them uttered by such a great actor, a very proficient actor, one who you obviously know is not crazy like this, but it's so mesmerizing to watch Anthony Hopkins in this film. You literally, no matter what the dude is talking about, he could be talking about the sickest thing in the world. You're just mesmerized by him. You literally cannot take your eyes off his performance. And it almost doesn't feel like a performance. It feels real, too real, in fact. And the same thing with Ted Levine and the Buffalo Bill character. Manhunter 86. I want to say that I've watched Manhunter Dirt about I really just can't remember a lot about it. But um, I will tell you about, in case there are some of you that may want to get this 4K but don't have it. Like I said, it looks fantastic. Here's the special features on the Kino Lorber release. You get audio commentary by film historian Tim Lucas, Inside the Labyrinth documentary, Page to Screen documentary, Understanding the Madness featurette, Scoring the Silence featurette, original 1991 Making of featurette, Jonathan Demme and Jodie Foster interviews, deleted scenes, outtakes, Anthony Hopkins' phone message, which is interesting, TV spots, teaser, and trailer. Before we move on, I'm going to catch up on these chat messages here, but I will show you that again. Silence of the Lambs. Fantastic little film. Let's see. Ryan, you say Manhunter is so good. I like it better than Red Dragon. I'm going to have to go back and try that one again. Durkee say it's good too, but Hopkins, Lecter, and Silence of the Lambs amplified the character to the max. Hey, Jason, you say, I doubt I'll get much love for this, but I preferred Brian Cox's performance of Lecter and think it would have been interesting if he was in Silence of the Lambs. No, that is cool, Jason. That's one of the things that I always try to bring up in these streams is I like these different opinions. That's why I don't mind that Curly Jaws comes in here and says that, Howling 78's overrated. He hates Maniac. Because that keeps the conversation going. It keeps things rolling. And it's great that we all have our each individual opinions. Even for those of us that love Silence of the Lambs, for instance, we still have varying degrees of like for the film or love for the film. Derek, you agree with what Ryan said about Manhunter? TJ, you say Foster's FBI friend plays Virginia Madsen's friend in Candyman. She's a pretty good actress, but two of her big movies are small parts. Cassie Lemons, yes, sir. Jason, you say the only negative I could say is that I prefer the more understated, realistic Lecter. They even gave him a Jasonish mask in Silence of the Lambs. Derek, you say he's a more Dracula-like character. I thought Chupa. Dracula like Lecter, I meant Chalupa. So, I just want to ask you guys this, though, before we move on to the next one. Do you consider this a film with two maniacs? Or I just way off base with that? I'm sorry. I promise I'll quit eating here in a minute. I'm going to say that I am going to move on to the second one in this stack because, bless my heart, I've been going on for different things for an hour and 17 minutes. If I'm going to get through all 7 movies, I'll have to pick up the pace here a little bit. Turkey says, yeah, but Lecter knows how to blend with the meat suits. LOL. Yeah. Okay. So, the next one I want to talk about is the original Psycho, directed by Alfred Hitchcock and starring Janet Leigh and Anthony Hopkins. And I know I say starring Janet Leigh, but Janet Leigh is actually not in the film very long at all and is the first casualty in the film. I've said this before, and I have to say it again. Psycho is pretty much a perfect film, in my opinion. And, there might be some people that would disagree with me on that, and that is cool. But I just feel like Psycho has everything in it. And this is the 4K. And I think we talked about this before about black and white films. Maybe Wes was talking about it when we did the watch along for Butcher Baker. That we really can't put our finger on it, but black and white films look fantastic in HD and 4K. Red Red, you say 10 years later he ate that guy's brain whilst he was still alive. Yes. TJ, you say Lecter acts more sophisticated, but he's just as brutal as Buffalo Bill. Exactly. Who is fairly sloppy. Maniac classism, lol. No, I think that's good, TJ. That really, that's what I want you guys to do to add to this conversation um, with just this kind of stuff. I think that is a very good assessment of those two characters. It means that you guys are really paying attention to the movies. You're not, and I'm not putting anybody down for putting something on in the background because I do that a lot nowadays. But when you notice stuff like that, it literally means that you are watching the film. So you guys may be thinking, well, the Norman Bates character is, some of you may not consider him a maniac, but just think about the brutality with that first kill when Janet Leigh is stabbed to death in the shower. I think that scene is just as brutal as anything that may have come after it. It pulls no punches. It is, even though we know at this point in time that the blood, of course, was chocolate syrup. It's black and white, so we don't know. It could be purple for all we know. But we're in the moment. We're in when the shower curtain is pulled back and the knife is going into Janet Leigh's body at different points. Even though we don't really see the penetration, we know that that's what's going on with that character of Marion Crane in the film. We know that Janet Leigh is not really being stabbed to death in the shower, but the character of Marion Crane is. And at that point in time, unless you've seen the movie, you would assume by the way the shadow, when you see the door open and you can see somebody coming towards the shower and you can see their silhouette in the shower curtain, that appears to be a woman. Okay. Um, and in a lot of ways, thinking that for the majority of the film that it is a woman doing the killing, that it's Norman's mother, Mrs. Bates, doing the killing, that in a way makes it even more sadistic. And Red Red, you say I had Night Flyer in my watched later list for about 2 weeks. I really need to watch it before copyright claims take it off. Yeah, unfortunately, that's one of the things that happens more often than not with things. Even something like Night Flyer. Which I'm not saying it's a bad film. I'm just saying It seems like there would be a lot of other things that they would go after other than Night Flyer. But so if you have not seen the original Psycho, feel free, feel free to plug your ears, walk away, whatever, for the next minute or so. And I'll give you some time to get out of here. Because I feel like most of us have seen the film. We know the twist. And that twist is. I hope you guys that haven't seen it. Hey, that's an interesting take, Dirk. You say Norman is a schizophrenic, so Norman is not a maniac. In my opinion, his mother is. That is a very interesting take on that because I don't think I've ever thought of it in those terms. But yeah, if you think about it in those terms, Norman's mother is a maniac. But unfortunately, what's in the film, Norman gets the blame for it. Essentially, he put up with years of abuse from his mother, who treated him like less than a person and essentially drove Norman crazy until he poisoned her and her lover, and then could not deal with the fact that he killed his own mother, so he had to go dig Mrs. Bates up and preserve her and talk to her. And then, of course, in his demented mind, it was like, well, I need mother to speak back to me. So he would, and they explain this at the conclusion of the film. A psychiatrist explains that Norman would go so far as to dress up in his mother's clothes, talk in her voice, become her. And essentially what they were saying is he has literally become his mother now. And so TJ, you said Norman was definitely a sociopath too. He did kill his mother and her lover, and he wasn't dual personalities at that point, I don't think. Which is also a good way to look at it. I'm loving this. I'm loving all these different points of view on it. It's great. That's okay, TJ. You say all of that you just said, Dana. LOL. I'm just mainly quoting some of the stuff the psychiatrist said at the conclusion of the film. So I'm seeing what Dirk's saying. I'm seeing what TJ's saying. You can look at it both ways. That's what's so great about these movies. You can look at it multiple ways. Okay? So you could look at it that Norman was already disturbed. You could look at it that his mother drove him insane and then he killed her, and then it drove him further over the edge after he killed her, and he had to go dig her up and then essentially become her to keep her alive. And a very, very complex story. This is not a simple story by any stretch of the imagination. And that's why I think it's so great. It has so many layers to this movie. It seems to be a simple movie at first. It becomes way more complicated as it goes on. This was also based on a book by Robert Bloch. I think Alfred Hitchcock did an amazing job with adapting this to film. And what he put on screen is phenomenal. Again, I think this had the perfect cast in it. Because you have Janet Leigh playing Marion Crane, you have the fantastic Anthony Perkins playing Norman Bates. The, I think this is one of the reasons why I was so turned off by the Psycho remake. It's not necessarily that Vince Vaughn is not a good actor, he was miscast. And we said this about Jackie Earl Haley too. The Jackie Earl Haley was not a horrible actor, but he was horribly miscast as Freddy Krueger. So when the remake of Psycho came out, and everybody saw Vince Vaughn in that character, you know, he just literally was not the right person to play Anthony Perkins, character of Anthony Perkins, of Norman Bates. And you might be saying, Dana, that's because you saw Anthony Perkins play Norman Bates for years and you're just not willing to accept anybody else to play Anthony Perkins' character, to take that over from him. No, that's not entirely it. It's when you see somebody that's miscast as badly as the Psycho remake was miscast, as badly as the Nightmare on Elm Street remake was miscast. You can't help but notice these things. Now, usually the people that accept the remakes as they are and don't ask questions are usually the people that do not know about the originals. Now, that's not always the case, but a lot of the times it is. Um, Darky said, but yes, y'all are right if you're just considering Psycho on its own, which is another good point, Dirk. Jason, you say it's hard to improve on the original Psycho as they improved with the remake. The psychiatric explanation shows its age, but I guess at that time it was a new concept that needed to be explained. Very good. I mean, all of these are excellent assessments. Like I said, that's why I love these streams. Dirk, I would have to agree with you there. They should have never remade Psycho, as they should have never remade a lot of movies. Um, Jason, you said Psycho 2 is way better than it had any right to be. I did enjoy Psycho 2. TJ, you said Perkins was more subtle and believable. Exactly, TJ. You hit the nail on the head. Vaughn was a bit too manic to not realize he's up to something. Yes, Vince Vaughn's Norman Bates seemed way, way over the top. Um, I mean, I don't think you have to literally show a guy masturbating as he's looking at a woman through a peephole in the wall. I mean, we knew, and I'm not trying to be a prude. I'm just saying I don't feel like we needed that. Psycho did not need that extra sleazy layer of watching a guy jerking off. I mean, we already knew, for those of us that watched the original Psycho, that Norman Bates was obviously getting off on seeing this woman. And then when he got sexually aroused, the I have no idea what that is. Hold on, guys. I got to check and see what that noise is. Echo. Stop. I was like, that was freaking me. That was freaking me out because I was hearing some kind of rap song going on in the background. Evidently, my device in the kitchen must have picked up on me saying something and thought I wanted it to play some kind of hip hop rap song because that's what was going on in there. So I got that turned off now. I was like, what in the heck is that? Okay. So, so like I was saying, we already knew that Norman Bates got sexually aroused when he saw Marion Crane through the peephole. We get that. And if you didn't get it, it was explained at the end again when the psychiatrist was talking. And so we already get that. And I just don't think that the movie needed that. They didn't need that extra visual in that case. So, oh, that's okay, John. You say sorry I'm in and out, but yeah, Psycho 2 rules. Love it. Me too. John, you say, I saw Pearl and liked it. It had some Psycho and Misery vibes to it. Yeah, come to think of it, you saying that makes me remember. Yeah, there's some, because well, I don't want to go too much into it for people that haven't seen it, but kind of when Pearl goes off the deep end, it is sort of like an Annie Wilkes type of thing. And you think Pearl is better than X? I've heard some people say that. Several people, in fact, John. John, you said the lighting in Psycho 2 is amazing when he goes, "Don't lie to me." Very snap, scary moment of Norman. Yeah, because he goes from being subtle, meek Norman Bates to really demanding attention at that point in time. Yes. He's very calm and friendly, but aggressive and unpredictable the next. And that whole scene in Psycho 2 where it's very, very creepy when he starts, hearing his mother's voice again and um she takes off all the Mrs. Bates garb that she's got on. Meg Tilly does, and she says, "It's me, Mary, Norman, it's Mary." And he's like, "Let me take you to bed. Let me take you up to your bedroom, mother." And it's just like, this is like so disturbing to watch. That whole particular scene is very disturbing. Well, Dirk, I knew some people hadn't seen this, why I don't want to go too detail oriented about it. But I would recommend it though. TJ, you say, I think since they were not straying much from the source material in the original Psycho, they wanted to add and could only think of expanding things that in the 60s were more taboo, like sexual stuff. And I'm sure they were, but there's another reason why they shouldn't have remade Psycho. Um, because just not a good idea. But you said that's not really making it more interesting. Exactly. So, again, this is the 4K of Psycho. Highly, highly recommend it. Um, Steve actually got me this one because he knows how much I love Psycho. I don't think Steve is a big Psycho fan, but he's not a big Night of the Living Dead fan either. So, I mean, it's not that he doesn't like black and white films, but, I never hear him say a lot about Psycho. And so, he never wants to like sit down and watch it with me or do anything like that. So I just figure he doesn't care for it much. Johnny say it's a story that is basically asking, can someone be cured of crazy 20 plus years? And in ways he improved, but by the end, he devolved right back into teenage Norman. It was a full circle back. Yes, exactly. Exactly, John. Um, TJ, you say, yeah, in Psycho 2, you don't know if Norman is crazy again or is playing along with what Tilly and her mother were doing to him. I think by the end he had gotten sick again. I really do that. Um, but what we might never know is if these things hadn't happened with Mary and her mother, um, would Norman Bates have stayed sane? Probably not, because of one thing: money. And, if they made Norman sane, there would be probably no more Psycho movies. If Norman's going to go crazy again eventually and start killing people again and dressing up like his mother again, then yes, you've got a movie. More money comes rolling in. So, um, Johnny say, agree, TJ, it's subtle at times. Red you say, it might be wrong, but some of the scenes from Ted Bundy 2002 always gave me a chuckle. Well, I'm not going to say that there's something wrong with you, Red, for chuckling at that. Because here's the thing. The Ted Bundy movie from 2002, I'm thinking, was one of those low budget jobbies, which probably didn't have the best acting in it anyway. And so, there's some of that stuff that's supposed to be covering serious subject matter, but it never really is. It never really accomplishes that. So I could totally get that some of the things made you chuckle. Darky say, I was told wait for Pearl on streaming, not as good as X, and there's some agenda stuff shoved in your face. I don't know. We have to see. I guess I didn't catch the agenda stuff that was going on. I liked the film. I thought it was enjoyable. Um, I would say probably, in my opinion, X is better, but it was worth, paying the money and going to see it. You might ask Steve, because he paid for our tickets, and I paid for the popcorn and drinks and stuff like that. But that's usually the way we split it up. That I'll get popcorn and drinks, and Steve will get the tickets, or we'll reverse it sometimes. John, you say, Dirk, I would go see it. To me, it has a higher rewatch value long term, more meat on the bone, and acting. TJ, you say, also Psycho 2 continues the idea of abuse from the mother. Mary was being forced by her mother, and sadly really seemed to care about Norman at the end. Yeah, I get that too. Okay, so you guys continue to put, you can continue with the Psycho talk or Pearl talk or whatever. I'm just going to keep rolling through these movies, and y'all feel free to comment whatever you want in there. We have 4 more after this one I'm going to talk about. It is almost 10 o'clock. But the next one I want to talk about, I know I've talked about it before, but I don't think I've talked about it for a while and or in depth. And that is Just Before Dawn, with George Kennedy, Greg Henry, Jamie Rose, and Chris Lemmon in it. Again, I'm not sure if all of you will consider the killer or killers in this film to be Maniac level, but just the way people were killed in this movie, I consider Maniac level. So, not only are the people that I mentioned in here, but Mike Kellen is also in this film in a short, capacity. So let me give, and this is a code red release, by the way. Let me give you a short plot synopsis for Just Before Dawn. So 5 friends set out for a weekend camping excursion to drink, frolic, and skinny dip on an isolated piece of land one of them has inherited. That is the Greg Henry character. Despite ominous warnings from locals, including a forest ranger, Roy McLean, played by George Kennedy from Airport and Death Ship, and Ty Mike Kellen of Sleepaway Camp, A hollering drunken hunter claiming to have witnessed his friend's evisceration by the hands of demons. The friends trek further into the foliage because they never listen, right? Co-starring Greg Henry, Mean Dog Blues, and Rich Man Poor Man, Deborah Benson, September 30th, 1955, Jamie Rose, TV's Lady Blue, Chris Lemon, TV's Thunder in Paradise, and Ralph Seymour of Underground Aces. And again, Ralph Seymour was in Killer Party as Vivica's boyfriend in that, or he becomes Vivica's boyfriend. Extremely eerie and beautifully shot with a horrifying twist that will make you wonder if any of the friends will survive those dark hours just before dawn. Code Red proudly presents Just Before Dawn, painstakingly restored from the original 35mm inner negative. And I'm laughing because we've all had the discussion about Bill Olsen and how his releases are very, very uneven as far as quality. They literally have no quality control. So, there's two quotes on the back of this. Gregory Burkhart from FearNet said, one of the most intense and chilling backwoods slashers ever made. Lacey Page of Diabolique said, the film carved its machete blade deep in my horror-loving heart. This was a film I saw later in life. It was before I got married to Steve, of course, and before I met the Dead Pit Boys and all that. But it was one that I didn't hear of uh, for a very long time, and it is directed by Jeff Lieberman. And I had watched some of Jeff Lieberman's other stuff, but for some reason I missed out on Just Before Dawn. So when I did get a hold of a copy of Watch, I was kind of blown away by this. I mean, you probably think, Dana, golly, there's 1,001, woodsy slasher movies, or backwoods slashers, as it was called in one of the quotes on the back of the Blu-ray. But I always thought that this seemed to have a little extra oomph to it. In a lot of ways, I think that the killer is more sadistic in his stalking and killing of these kids. The scenes are very beautiful. Um, Honestly, I don't think this is the best transfer that could be of this. But again, Code Red put it out, and Code Red is very uneven with the releases. But it works for me on all kinds of levels. The stalking shots, the actual kills when they happen. I don't really want to call them jump scares because I don't feel like these are jump scares in that particular sense of the word. But when that killer shows up, just out of the blue on things like the rope bridge and stuff like that, it just really, really works. These filmmakers definitely knew what they were doing with this one. So if you've never seen Just Before Dawn, I highly recommend it. Great atmosphere, a very sadistic, single-minded killer. Great kill sequences in it. A lot of suspense. And even though it's like got a lot of open space in some scenes, I feel like the horror is very claustrophobic in this movie. You do feel closed in along with the characters when they're being hunted by this particular killer. So, highly recommend it if you've never seen it. If it's been a while since you've seen this one, I would say, pull this sucker back out and watch it again. The special features on this Blu-ray, you get the original uncut version from the original internegative extended international cut, 2019 on-camera interviews with stars Greg Henry, Chris Lemon, and Jamie Rose, and producer David Sheldon. Includes vintage featurette with interviews with Chris Lemon, David Sheldon, Jamie Rose, John Hunsaker, and John Hunsaker was the killer in the movie, and writer Mark Arowitz, and the original theatrical trailer. And that is just before dawn. Jason, you say, I love that movie. I wish Jeff Lieberman had made more films. I love Squirm also, and even Satan's Little Helper at least has a great idea behind it. I have yet to see Satan's Little Helper, Jason, but I'd like to. I think maybe Steve may have seen it. TJ, you say, I haven't seen Just Before Dawn. I need to. I even have a t-shirt of the poster, LOL. Yeah, definitely if you can get a copy of it, I would definitely recommend watching it. Yes, TJ, I like Blue Sunshine as well. That Blue Sunshine was actually one of the first Jeff Lieberman movies I watched. And a very creepy atmosphere in that one as well. Yes, John, I almost forgot about the whistle music. I'm glad you brought that up. That whistle music adds yet another layer to a film that's already creepy as hell. But that whistle music, dare I say, it's almost like the banjo music in Deliverance, sort of, for me anyway. John, you say it may be the most underrated creepy slasher of the 80s just for what it is. Yeah, underrated. That is a great word to attach to this film, John. So, anyway, y'all keep putting stuff in the chat. I think we're having a really good conversation here. We're almost 2 hours in, not of all of which I've been talking about these movies, but my hair is just like super wild on this one side. Sorry about that. But we're moving through these really, I think, at a good pace. And I don't know if Curly Jaws is in here anymore because I haven't, and two, I apologize. I forgot to ask if anyone wanted to be added on the stream. There is still time if you would like to be added. Just let me know and I'll send you the link. We've got, 3 more movies to cover after this one I'm getting ready to talk about. So again, if you want to be on the stream with me, I just totally forgot in the, all the talking about the other stuff and then getting into the movies. I totally forgot to bring that up and I do apologize. But again, there is still time if you would like to be on here, either on camera or audio only. Actually, you say, are movies like Deliverance offensive to Southern people like Birth of a Nation is to black folk? Well, I guess I would consider myself a Southern person, and I don't find Deliverance offensive, but maybe people in the Deep South might, because I'm not actually in the Deep South. Jason answered that. No, we aren't all that sensitive down here. I have literally been to the area where that movie was filmed. X-ray, you say, as a New York asshole, I always wondered how Southern people feel about hillbilly psycho movies. Yeah, like I said, I consider myself a little bit Southern, X-ray, and hillbilly psycho movies never bothered me. I mean, I've watched them, but they definitely do not offend me in any way. But let's see what Dirk says here. Yeah, Chalupa, like Coach used to say, boys, you can't be pussies all your life. LOL. Exactly. Oh boy. So Let's see. John, you say, I probably will try to some on weekends, but most weeknights it's hard to stream in office or get on camera, huh? Yeah, I get that. Are you John, are you working tonight and just, popping in for this, or um are you in your home office? I'm just being curious. I'm not trying to be too nosy. Dougie said, that's Arkansas, right, Chalupa? X-ray, you say Tucker and Dale too should have been about the boys visiting New York City. They could do it today. Yeah, that would have been interesting. But like I was going to say, you guys can continue to put stuff in the chat. I'm going to move along to the next movie in my stack. And that is Slumber Party Massacre with the Driller Killer. I'm sorry for the glare. This is actually a steel book, and Steve gave me one of those steel book covers, which they don't ever, or at least the ones we get, they sometimes don't want to stay closed at the top or bottom, which drives me crazy. Johnny say, I work from home, so I'm in office 8 to 5, then downstairs at night. So I'm usually watching TV or playing Switch with Becca. So that's why I'm randomly on and off. Gotcha. You got to spend some time with the wife. Don't get in that rut like me and Steve do, where we hardly spend any time together anymore. Johnny said, I love The Office, but I'm in there too much. Jason, you say Flint River, Georgia, I thought. So anyway, Slumber Party Massacre is not a high budget film. It's obviously a low budget film. But I think Michael Valella, who plays the driller killer in this, is a great maniac. And also, I think I told this story before. Several years ago, this was when Steve and I were dating, and I believe it was one of our trips to Cinema Wasteland. Of course, we haven't been in years now, but Michael Valella was a guest there, and I think there were several other people from Summer Party Massacre that were there. Well, maybe not several, but Deborah DeLiso, I believe, was there as well, who played one of the girls at the slumber party, who played Kim. So I met Michael Valella, and he was just the nicest, sweetest guy ever. And he looks like he's a college professor now. Who knows? He could be. I can't recall. But he really, he talked to me about stuff about adopting a kid and all of this stuff. And so we didn't just talk about the horror movie that he was in, but he did talk about it. And he talked to me about how he made those movements that were kind of like a peacock's movements, especially in the locker room where he's trying to find Brink Stevens' character, and he's just kind of. And the other thing was like I don't know if he talked to me about the Charles Manson aspect of it, but if you listen to him on the commentary and interviews on the Blu-ray, he does talk about, having a little bit of a Charles Manson influence on the character. For instance, there's one scene where he tells one of the girls, I think it's Michelle Michaels, who he says, you got to have a lot of love to do this for a person. And she's basically pleading for her life. And so anybody that knows anything about Charles Manson or the Manson cult, those were some of the things that either he said or his cult said to people before they killed them. That I'm doing this because I love you, or something like that. And it's just so eerie and so disturbing. X-ray, you say the driller killer kind of reminds me of Bob from Twin Peaks for some reason. Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but yeah. I mean, I know they're two different actors, but that is an interesting take on that. Dougie said, "Oh, okay, I just figured Arkansas, I guess." Um, oh, damn, TJ, you say, "Okay, I've now ordered just before dawn on Blu-ray." LOL. Uh, oh man, I hope you like it though, because I forgot to mention that if you could find it and watch it for free somewhere. I usually always try to preface a lot of this stuff that when I encourage you to watch it by saying you don't necessarily have to go out and spend your hard earned money because you may not like it. But, I hope you like it, TJ, especially since you spent the money on it. And I hope it didn't cost you all too much. Guys, I am going to have to take a break really quick here to run to the restroom. Okay, guys, I'm back again. Hopefully, I won't have to get up again, barring anything going on with the dogs before this is over. Let's see. John, you say X-ray. It's amusing. The deliverance thing is more like the mountain people. The closest thing to that in the South are the Cajun folks, like in that movie Southern Comfort. TJ, you say I like the special feature stuff, so I ordered the Blu-ray. LOL. Okay, cool. TJ says Slumber Party Massacre quotes, he's dead, all right. So cold. It's the pizza. And now the whole other part of that scene where the one girl wants to eat the pizza and like she just pulls the box out from underneath this dead guy and just gets out pizza and starts eating it and other girls are like, oh, you know. Um so yeah. There are some great quotes in this. Johnny say the South is an odd place. Some real weirdos. People putting chains back in saws at haunted houses. Lots of nice people, but some crazy folks too. Boy, I'm glad they didn't put chains back in the chainsaws when we went to the Baxter Avenue morgue haunted house that year. Jason, you said there are some bad hillbillies out there, but usually meth is involved. Most people I run into are very kind. Johnny said there was a place south of Birmingham I went to once that was a flea market. And I'm not kidding. I was waiting to hear Fool for a Blonde and see Jim Seadow say out of gas. That is great. You said it was bumfuck Egypt. Dirk says, yeah, don't be messing around. Jason, he said, what do Northerners make of 2000 Maniacs? I've always wondered. I don't know, Jason, exactly. Maybe somebody will answer in here like X-ray or something. Jason, you say Tucker and Dale is more true than Deliverance or Wrong Turn. TJ, you said there's a bunch of comedy in that. When the phone repair woman gets pulled in the van, it's kind of comical. Then the scene with the girl in the fridge. Yeah, and she literally Deborah DeLiso, who was the one that was in the fridge, um, she was literally having to hold on to that light bulb to keep from, totally falling out of that fridge during that whole scene. And there are multiple, open, close. And then finally it's opened wide and she falls out. But yeah, I totally get that. And Slumber Party Massacre is one that I can put on anytime, doesn't really take any uh, enormous brain power to watch it. And I'm not saying that to offend anybody, especially the makers of this film. I'm just saying that if I need something just to be able to forget about a bad day or whatever, or a fight I might have had with Steve, then Slumber Party Massacre is the type of movie that I would just want to put on, perhaps in the background, because it's got just enough stuff going on that it can make me forget about anything bad that might have happened. It's just a fun little movie um, about a guy with a big drill. And I'm not trying to be dirty. He literally does have a big drill. So that is Slumber Party Massacre. And I do have a Russ Thorn action figure too, as well. Okay, let's see. X-Ray, you say, I want to visit the South in the near future. Yeah, I heard they have some amazing swap meets and flea markets. Johnny said, Joe Bob did the best dissertation and speech on the hillbilly cycle thing ever. He broke it down to a science almost. Yes, he did. Johnny said, Slumber Party has some catchy, simple music. It's like a basic Casio. Yeah, it does. TJ, you say it's fun. 2 is my fave. I still need to see the Slumber Party remake. I'm never going to watch that Slumber Party remake. I mean, to each his own. If you want to watch it, that's fine, TJ. But Steve had it on one night, and I was like, what in the hell? This ain't even, I hated the characters already, and I didn't even stay in the bedroom to watch it with him. I had to go away and because it looked so asinine. I had to go away and go watch something in the living room. Jason, you say it's good fun. I can't believe they're trying to make it seem like a feminist film now. LOL. That is a straight up exploitation film. Boobs in the first 5 minutes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Jason. And, you know, since it was being made for Roger Corman, for his production company, and even though there were women that were directing it, the exploitation stuff was still there. And you had people like Brink Stevens in it who feel and I'm not saying this because I don't like Brink Stevens. I like Brink Stevens a lot. I met her a few years back, but um, there Brink Stevens and some other screen queens and some of these other women in this movie obviously felt comfortable taking their clothes off for the cameras. So it's definitely not a feminist film. Maybe perhaps they said that because a woman directed it. But speaking of the woman directing it, I'm not meaning to say anything specifically bad about this woman, but I've listened to the commentary for Slumber Party Massacre several times. And every time it feels sort of cringy because the woman director is on the commentary, of course, and Deborah DeLiso, who plays the blonde Kim in the movie, are both on the commentary. And Deborah DeLiso keeps talking about how at first she was uncomfortable with being naked on the film and all of that. And even when she's not, topless or anything, the director keeps saying, got nothing ashamed of there to be ashamed of there. And kind of, telling what a good body Deborah DeLiso has. And I'm like, is there a lesbian thing going on here? Is this, I mean, if the woman director is lesbian, that's cool with me. But if she's straight, that makes it a little even more cringy. So does anybody know if the director of Slumber Party Massacre is lesbian or not? TJ, you said, well, glowing review of that, haha. Sorry, TJ. X-Ray, you said there was a remake. Oh yeah, X-Ray, there was. X-Ray, you say I think they're trying to validate the schlock they starred in. LOL. Jason, you said there was actually. Um. So again, y'all continue to talk about any of the previous movies we talked about, or anything else you want to bring up. I am going to move on to the last of our, or one of the last of our three films we're going to talk about tonight. And this one also has multiple maniacs in it. And that is Alone in the Dark. And we have Jack Palance. We have Donald Pleasance. We have Martin Landau, Dwight Schultz, and Erlen Van Lith. This is written and directed by Jack Shoulder. It's an early New Line Cinema release. And no, Donald Pleasance does not play one of the maniacs in the film, but both Jack Palance and Martin Landau do. So let me give you a little bit of a plot synopsis for Alone in the Dark. In case there are some of you out there that have never experienced this little gem. So, at a secluded mental institution, electricity fuels the high-tech security system that keeps the nearby neighbors safe from deviant menaces like Frank Hawks, Jack Palance, and preacher Martin Landau. Dr. Bain, Halloween's Donald Pleasance, maintains strict order while a new doctor, Dan Potter, the A-Team's Dwight Schultz, arrives in town with his family, but the inmates don't take kindly to Potter's presence and believe he has killed off their former therapist. Suddenly, a power outage leaves the town in chaos, and now the maniacs and they actually call them maniacs, are free to roam the streets and hunt down the man they believe has invaded their lives. With the area quickly descending into riots and chaos, the innocent few must fight for their lives when they're left terrified, cornered, and alone in the dark. One of the most memorable and terrifying cult horror films of the 1980s is White Knuckle Shocker from director Jack Shoulder. Features gory makeup effects from Tom Broomberger, who did special effects for Don't Go in the House, and Tom Savini, Friday the 13th, delivering one seat jumping scare after another, along with a thick slab of pitch black humor. Um, let's see. Actually, you said the director is woke as fuck. She'd be one of these new A24 elevated horror snob directors. TJ, you say Corman required nudity. If they weren't going to do it, he would put it in. Exactly, TJ. Michelle Bauer is a random naked woman in the shower. The writer of the script was a feminist. She had no say in the movie. And she pretty much says that too when she's interviewed that it was Corman's deal all the way. Actually, you said the director kind of looks like UB. Um, you mean the director of do you mean the director of Slumber Party Massacre? Or the director of Alone in the Dark? John, you say Alone in the Dark is great. I saw it last year at Belcourt. 12 hours of terror on the big screen. I bet that was awesome. John, you say I love the Jack Palance scene at the end of it at the Punk Club. I do too. That is classic. John, you said the Nashville local theater does 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. horror films near Halloween one night. I made it 4 films in last time and went home. They showed Blood Diner too. That sounds awesome. Jason, you said that's cool. I would love it if there was something like that around here. Yeah, see, I can't ever get Steve to go to the Bella Court. You know, there have been some Mystery Science Theater, or not Mystery Science Theater, shoot, Riff Tracks. TJ, you say Alone in the Dark is awesome. I agree. I won't spoil anything. Lynn Shay has a small role. She certainly does. I really like the role that she has in it as well. TJ, you said there's a great reveal you don't see coming too. Yeah, that's something I want to ask. We're not going to give away the reveal because there might be some people in here that have not seen Alone in the Dark. But for those of you that have seen it, is there anybody that saw that reveal coming? Because I'll tell you, I did not the first time I saw it. I was like, wow, this is a great build up, great reveal that I, again, totally did not see coming. Donald Pleasance, though, I will say this. I think Donald Pleasance was always an incredible actor. But something, and perhaps this was done by design or on purpose. It more than likely was, but something seemed a little off with Donald Pleasance's portrayal of Dr. Bain. And like I said, maybe that was the intention, that it was kind of like the lunatics running the asylum type of thing. Johnny say, it's try to go to that or Full Moon Cineplex a lot. I get sleepy though. Those midnight movies wear my ass out. Steve probably wouldn't make it as long as you do, John. You say, yeah, Alone in the Dark has a lot of interesting humor too. Donald Pleasant's kind of a goofball doctor. Ha ha, exactly. And like I said, that may have been by design. It more than likely was. Jason said, I've seen it twice, but I can't remember the reveal. Getting on. Well, again, Jason, we're not going to give away the reveal, or I'm not going to give away the reveal, because I know no matter how many of these movies that I've seen a bunch of times, there's going to be one or two people that show up to the streams that haven't seen it. And I surely don't want to ruin it for somebody that might be considering watching it. TJ, you say, yeah, I think we're supposed to think Pleasance might not be on the up and up. Yeah, exactly. Um, so hold on here. Let's see. John says, so the guy, the boy's friend guy that's at the house and is stuck, did you think he sort of favored Jeffrey Combs? I couldn't stop noticing that. Oh, the boyfriend guy. Um, yeah, come to think of it, John, yeah. I didn't think about that until you brought that up, though. TJ, you say it's better than the five cream reveal. Actually, you say Donna Pleasance was pretty good as the doctor in Devonsville Terror. Exactly. Ever seen that one, Dana? Yes, I have. I used to watch that one a lot when I was growing up. That was one that showed up on network television a lot in my neck of the woods. And yes, I did enjoy it. John, you say, I don't want to spoil it. X-ray, you say, if you needed someone to play creepy British doctors in American movies, you hired Pleasance. Yeah. John, you said the guy, LOL. Exactly. Um, so I wanted to bring this up too. Since this movie Alone in the Dark kind of highlights the punk scene at the time, what did y'all think of the punk rock band the Sick Fucks um, in the movie? And they were a real band at the time. TJ, you say you played the doctor a lot. Yes, he certainly did. Um, because I recently found out that two of the women from that band, the Sick Fucks, have a makeup and hair dye company, Manic Panic. So Tish and Snooky, I believe, from the band The Sick Fucks, they have created their own line of hair dyes. So if you use Manic Panic hair dye, you're using some of their products. And also, I have an eyeshadow palette that's created by Manic Panic out of New York City. So, and I love that eyeshadow palette too. So I just want to know what everybody thought about that band, um, and how you thought it added to the movie. If you thought it added to, if you thought it took away from the movie, then you can say that too. Yeah, TJ, it would have been. It would have been cool if Texas interviewed them for his old fanzine. That would have been awesome. If Texas, if you're still in here, you didn't ever interview the Sick Fucks, did you? Because I would love to hear about that. For some reason I'm thinking that the guy in that band has since passed away, but I could be wrong about that. Yeah, John, it was an interesting band. It's also hilarious that Murdoch from the A-Team was the dad and the like the new psychiatrist. That's hilarious. Um, so I am going to tell you about the special features on this Screen Factory release. I know Screen Factory's taken a lot of flack lately for several different things. And I'm not saying if you want to get this that you have to buy it directly from Screen Factory. You could get it from Amazon or somewhere else, or you could strike up a deal with somebody like I guess Wes did with Dirt. Um, X-ray. So I'm taking it you're saying you don't care much for their hair dye because you say you used Manic Panic once back in senior year of high school. I look like a damned anime character. I have never used the Manic Panic hair dye, um, but I do have the eyeshadow palette, which I like really well. But I am going to read off some of these special features on here. You get a new 2K scan from the Inner Positive, new interview with director Jack Shoulder, audio commentary with Jack Shoulder, an interview with actress Carol Levy, who was the blonde that when one of the maniacs was like stabbing from underneath the bed, she was the one that was all hunched over on the bed like that. An interview with underground New York punk favorites, the Sick Fucks, and author Adam Rockoff, and a theatrical trailer. TJ, you say, too bad the band wasn't in New Year's Evil. LOL. Yeah, that would probably been better than some of the bands that were on there. John, you say, I need to get this Blu-ray. I always hold off because it's never on sale, but I want it. Yeah, silly me. I ended up paying full price for it. John, you say it's always 27 or so on Amazon. TJ, you say I used it. I've dyed my hair the last few Halloweens. It was blue for a while. I always thought of using it to dye my own hair, but then I thought, I don't know. I think I'll just go to my hairdresser to have that done. I do, as you can see, I've got some gray that's coming back, and I really need to go see my hairdresser to get it. I want to have it just dyed black again. I don't think I'm gonna, do the rainbow colors or anything like that anymore. I probably want to get my hair trimmed a little bit. Okay. So that is Alone in the Dark. I highly recommend this one if you've never seen it. It has some great um, creepy scenes. It has some great comedic scenes. It has a mix and match of those. It has suspense. It has, in my opinion, a very memorable reveal and a creepy reveal, and not one that I think anybody's going to catch on first watch. So anyway, that's Alone in the Dark. Highly recommend it. So we're down to the final two, guys. And you guys know what the last one's going to be. But the next to last one is Crawl Space with Klaus Kinski. It says he seduces them in his mind and traps them in his crawl space. And, I'll tell you what. Klaus Kinski was a guy who, I don't know, I wouldn't say he was like drop dead gorgeous or anything in his younger days, but in his younger days, I could kind of understand the women in the films anyway. I heard that he was kind of grabby at the women many times and upset a lot of people. And that Kinski was very hard to work with. So much so that the director of this film, David Schmoller, who also did Puppet Master, there's actually a special feature on this Blu-ray that is, again, from Screen Factory from a few years back. There is a short film that David Schmoller did called Please Kill Mr. Kinski. So that shows you what David Schmoller thought of working with Klaus Kinski. I have seen some behind the scenes footage on other movies that Klaus Kinski was on, and he seemed like a very volatile man. But then I had seen, people do interviews with him where he was talking very calmly and rationally. Let's see. TJ, you said there's a scene that reminds me of Evil Laugh. Hint, hint. Exactly. X-ray, you say you should keep it, Daner. It's punk. Um, are you talking about like the colorful hair, Dane, or you mean keep the gray in it or the black? John, you say, I feel like Klaus Kinski probably would have been this guy had he not been an actor. He was crazy as hell. Well, there's no doubt that he's crazy. He was crazy as hell. Um, John, you say you should read about Fitzcarraldo and the turmoil on that movie. I think that might have been the actual behind the scenes footage I saw where Klaus Kinski was basically going ape shit in it. Yeah, I think this was. Yeah, I just saw clips of it. Werner Herzog had extras that actually offered to murder Klaus on the set because they hated him so much. No joke. It's a whole documentary on YouTube on it. I'll have to check that out. Jason, you say, yeah, he was a madman for sure. X-Ray, you said the best docu on Kinski is My Best Friend by Werner Herzog. Those two came close to killing each other each film, but they made their best work together. So let's give a little plot synopsis about Crawlspace, shall we? Joshua Miller from Ched.com said a solid, mostly forgotten gem. So landlord Carl Gunther, played by Klaus Kinski, Nosferatu the vampire, seems like a conscientious landlord who looks out for his female tenants. What they don't know is that he has an elaborate network of crawl spaces that he uses to watch their every move. Can a new prospective renter stop this apartment building's rapid turnover rate, or will Gunther continue to make a killing? Also starring Talia Balsam from The Kindred and Tane, I guess that's how you pronounce it, or Tanae from Deathspaw, directed by David Schmoller. Tourist Trap, Catacombs, and Puppet Master. I almost forgot about Tourist Trap. And featuring a haunting score by Pino Donaggio, Dressed to Kill, Blowout, and Piranha. This disturbing and truly creepy film is driven by a compelling performance from Kinski. And he does put on one hell of a performance in this. And there are a lot of creepy shots of Kinski. One being the one where he has blood all over his mouth and he's kind of grinning. It's just, ugh. Um, Now, Tane, the actress Tane or Tanae or how you pronounce it, was somebody that actually, this is kind of similar to the whole Dick Miller thing. Only Dick Miller was a great special makeup effects, and Tane was an actress. And Tane was an actress that got, either was nude or scantily clad through the majority of this film. But it's been a while since I watched Deathspaw, so I can't exactly remember her character on Deathspaw. But anyway, she is either scantily clad or nude most of this film. So back when I was trying, to get interviews with different people long before I was doing my Blood Type magazine, but I was just interested in seeing if I could talk to these different people. And somehow I was able to get maybe her address or something. This was, in the days before, everybody was doing everything on the internet, and being able to contact people became a little bit easier. At this point in time, I was doing it by snail mail. So I believe I sent her a letter, and she gave me her phone number and told me to call her anytime. And of course, I was too chicken to do it, just like when Dick Smith gave me his phone number. So I've missed out not once, but twice on talking to people that dealt in horror films. So That's my story about her. Um, but John, you say he was an actual Nazi. I'm pretty sure he served. His life is fascinating as hell, but you could write a book on his exploits. I've heard. Oh God, yes. Um, I wouldn't put it past him about serving in the Nazi party, but I always liked Klaus Kinski in films. His personal life was such a mess, but I think he was great in the films that he was in, and this performance was no exception. And again, this has creepy atmosphere in it. Pino Donaggio does a great job with the score. Um, this is a movie that I remember watching back again in my video rental days. I remember me and my mom watching it. Maybe me and my Aunt Sandy might have watched it as well. So I would highly recommend it for all the things I mentioned above, or before, rather. I'm so used to saying see above, see above, or see below, like when I'm sending emails. But so, again, I highly recommend it. If you've never seen it, try to see if you could find a free copy of it. I'm not going to say go out and buy it because you might not like it. But I would say it's definitely worth a watch. Um, this, of course, is a Screen Factory, Shout Factory release from several years back. And it does have some special features. You get audio commentary with writer and director David Schmoller, interview with makeup effects artist John Volich, sorry. A short film, Please Kill Mr. Kinski by David Schmoller, TV spots, and a theatrical trailer. And that is Crawlspace. Now, to get to the coup de grace of these films, some of you may not agree that it's the coup de grace of films. If old Curly Jaws was still in here, I'm sure he would tell us it's not. John, you're talking about Crawlspace is out of print. I believe it is. I do believe it is at this point in time. TJ, you say it's on YouTube with Spanish subtitles. Crawlspace. Spanish language. Oh, okay, gotcha. So, I don't know. Who knows? It might be on Tubi. I can't recall seeing it on Tubi recently, but that doesn't mean that it's not. So as I said, I saved this one for last. The Joe Spinell Sleaze Classic, Maniac. I warned you not to go out tonight. That's a great tagline. Awesome. This is the 4K from Blue Underground of this. It does have Dolby Atmos sound. TJ said, "No, I was right the first time. Sorry, it's late." LOL. No, I totally get you, TJ. I'm actually aggressively trying to finish these up before 11 o'clock. Hopefully, we're on our last one, so we might make it. John, you say, "Oh God, that sounds like what you see if you go to hell." Klaus Kinski yelling at you in Spanish. So, again, I'm going to give you a little bit of a plot synopsis for Maniac, but it's not like I don't think that most of you, if not all of you in here, have already seen this. We are down to 6 people now, so perhaps I went on too long, regardless of how quickly I tried to go through these. So the notorious horror classic now on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray. So Frank Zito, a career performance by writer and executive producer Joe Spinell of Rocky and The Godfather fame, It's a deeply disturbed man, haunted by the traumas of unspeakable childhood abuse. And when these horrific memories begin to scream inside his mind, Frank prowls the seedy streets of New York City to stalk and slaughter innocent young women. Now, Frank has begun a relationship with a beautiful photographer, Caroline Monroe, of The Spy Who Loved Me. And here's one thing I could never understand why somebody the likes of Caroline Monroe in this film would even like go out to dinner with Joe Spinell's character in this. Why? It's obvious. I mean, maybe because we're on the outside looking in, and all we see is crazy. And we've seen the scenes that have come before of him killing women and scalping them. And but I just that's the only thing about this movie that doesn't gel with me. It's the whole relationship between Joe Spinell and Caroline Monroe. Just doesn't work for me. But everything else is fine. Dirk, you say blood in your hair. You want to be pretty, don't you? Pretty for me. Yeah, a lot of really classic and creepy lines in this, Dirk. So, once again, I'm competing with Raw. Sorry about that. I am almost finished, though. But doesn't Raw go on for like 3 freaking hours? Does it still go on for 3 hours or more? What's anybody really missing with that? Um, X-Ray, you say, for some reason, I think if Joe Spinell hadn't have died, he probably would have ended up in The Sopranos. Perhaps he might have been a good addition to The Sopranos. Jason, I forgot what I did, what I might have said that you agree with. You might have to remind me about that. Um, so, how long have I been on? Since 8 o'clock, and now we're at 10:40. But I'm on the final movie. I'm on Maniac. Um, so I've almost been on for 3 hours total. Actually, he said Joe was just that charming, gave Monroe the vapors. Oh, okay. So you agree. You can't see Monroe getting with Spinell. I mean, it wasn't like there was like they were going to have sex or anything in the movie, but I just couldn't imagine her just getting, agreeing to go to dinner with him and stuff, like a date. Uh, I just don't see that. TJ, you say awesome special effects, creepy as fuck, sleazy, and interesting look into how New York looked back in the days. But now should have won an award of some kind for his role. Oh, definitely. But they're not going to give anybody any awards for a movie like Maniac. TJ, you say Spinell came up with a lot of how his character looked and acted. He certainly did. Johnny said, agreed, X-Ray. Spinell would be spot on for Goodfellas or Sopranos. Yeah. And he was in The Godfather, in case you missed me say that a little bit earlier. Dargy said, no, no, I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to keep you so you won't go away for again. And, there's a little bit of a psycho element in this movie, I feel like, because he's constantly talking to his dead mother. And when he's killing some of the women, you actually see his mother's face real quickly when he's strangling the hooker. Um, you see his mother. I think it's when he's strangling the hooker. It's his mother's face that you see flashed up there really quickly. That's what he's seen. Jason, yes, Grimaldi was in The Sopranos and he was in Don't Go in the House, a similar film. Exactly. Yes, John. Spinell does play a creepy dude, a creepy cop, a very sleazy cop in Cruising. It is a small role, but yeah, he it's a really standout role for him, I think. Um, so These are the atrocities of a human monster. This is the story of a maniac. Directed by William Lustig, who did Maniac Cop 2 and Vigilante, and featuring landmark gore effects by Tom Savini, Dawn of the Dead, Friday the 13th. This relentlessly shocking and disturbing film was originally banned or censored all over the world due to its graphic violence. Now, Blue Underground's critically acclaimed 2018 restoration of Maniac, scanned in 4K, 16-bit from the original 16 millimeter camera negative, is presented with Dolby Vision HDR and the new Dolby Atmos audio mix, overflowing with hours of extras. I got to tell you a real quick story about Maniac. I may have told this before, but hopefully you guys haven't heard it so many times that you're bored with it. But the first time I watched Maniac, of course, was on a VHS. I think probably I rented it. And I was watching it in my parents' living room, and my mom walks through on the part where uh, the maniac is killing a couple on the beach. And my mom was like, "Oh my gosh, Dana, what is this?" Because she just walks in the living room, and these people are getting killed on the beach, very graphically. And I don't know if she ever did sit down and watch the rest of it with me. It's just, I think she was so shocked by that beginning scene that I think she might have seen the scene where the nurse gets killed um, in the bathroom. And I think those two scenes combined probably just turned her off completely. Texas, you want to know what band were you talking about, TJ? My string paused for a bit. Don't know why. Oh, sorry about that, Texas. I think that's what we were talking about, the Sick Fucks, which was a band, a real band that was in Alone in the Dark. Yes, Dirk. Joe Spinell was awesome in The Godfather. So, again, I think Joe Spinell cemented this role for himself. I think we really saw what Joe Spinell was capable of as far as acting is concerned. I really don't think that Joe Spinell was a real maniac or anything. He was just really good at pulling this off. He had the look, he had that style down pat. Um, and as over the top as the gore and stuff was in the movie, the gritty realism of New York City was perfectly shown in this. Um, and not only could I feel the insanity in Joe Spinell's portrayal of Frank Zito, I could also feel a pain um, of the years of child abuse that he suffered at the hands of his mother. Evidently, she must have burned him with cigarettes and maybe put him in the closet and did all kinds of things to him. Um, but when it came down to it, he still loved his mother and was haunted by her death. And you see that repeatedly throughout the film. So you take one look at Joe Spinell at the beginning of the movie, right after the couple is killed on the beach, and he sits up in bed and he screams and he's sweating and all of this. And then he's just sitting there like this and kind of rocking back and forth. I mean, he had this character down to a science, down to a T. And I think that's why this film works so well. Say what you will about the film, that it's misogynistic, that it's too realistic. It could go on and on. Um, it still is a very well made film. I think William Lustig had his finger on the pulse of what New York City was at the time. Um, So everything seems to work in this film, with the exception of Caroline Monroe's character being enamored of Joe Spinell's Frank Zito character. Um, let me. Dirk, you say, and Godfather Part 2. Texas, you say, I remember them, LOL. TJ, you say, yeah, the sick fuck. Texas, sorry, didn't see your message. John, you say, I need to rewatch this. It's been a long time. TJ, you say, there was a 2012 remake with Elijah Wood. It was good, but Wood was a total maniac. Like, I had very little sympathy for his character. Which, see, if they had went totally in that direction with the original Maniac, I don't think it would have worked. Because there were some scenes, even though you knew that Spinell's character of Frank Zito was batshit crazy, there were still certain scenes in there where you did have sympathy for Frank Zito. John, you say, yeah, Bill Lustig is a smart guy. He knows what he's going for. He had a good eye for that exploitation film of the time period. He certainly did. Actually, you said Maniac was fucked up, but it had Joe Spinell's creepy charm to elevate it. So, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the special features on this 4K before we wrap up this show or the stream tonight. So, this has 2 discs. This one has audio commentary with producer and director William Lustig and producer Andrew Garone. Audio commentary number 2 with producer and director William Lustig, special makeup effects artist Tom Savini, editor Lorenzo Marinelli, and Joe Spinell's assistant Luke Walter. Who you might think, is that going to be a little boring? But actually, Luke Walter was a really close friend, as well as being a personal assistant to Joe Spinell. So I think his insight, since nobody can talk to Joe Spinell now and do interviews with him, I think Luke Walter really knows what he's talking about when he talks about his friend Joe Spinell. You get theatrical trailers, TV spots, and radio spots. Disc 2 has Maniac outtakes, returning to the scene of the crime with William Lustig, Anna and the Killer interview with star Caroline Monroe, The Death Dealer interview with special makeup effects artist Tom Savini, Dark Notes interview with composer Jay Chataway. And by the way, Jay Chataway does an awesome job with the score of this movie. Maniac Men interview with songwriters Michael Sembello and Dennis Martowski. The Joe Spinell story, which is really, really interesting. And Mr. Robbie Maniac 2 promo reel, Maniac publicity, and Maniac controversy. And again, that is Maniac. Like I said, in my opinion, the coup de grace of these Maniac films that I've talked about tonight, even though there are others in this stack that, run a close second and third and fourth or whatever. Brandon's awake again. So, Johnny says Spinell's death was so sad. I feel like it was too. Reading about it just now, I was like, damn, poor dude. Yeah. It's like when people slide into obscurity, or, it's like they die and aren't found for a while. Wasn't that the case? Wasn't Spinell dead for, I hate to say, for a few days, but wasn't he dead for a little bit before anybody found him? That's right. In another universe, Joe Spinell lived, gave Dana his digits, and she didn't call him. Oh boy. So I may stay on here a couple more minutes. I don't want to just like cut you off completely. not give you a chance to wrap things up for yourself. TJ, you say, I mentioned before Daria Nicolodi was originally going to be in Maniac as the Monroe character. Argento was going to produce it, but couldn't. They almost had Goblin do the music, which would, all of that would have been interesting. Um, Johnny said, it reminds me of how Scott Hall died alone and by freak accident. Yeah, I don't know. It's just really sad to think about, and a lot of people think, well, why are you feeling bad for old Joe Spinell? Um, because I know Joe Spinell talked about, wasn't he married to a porn actress at one time or something like that? And unfortunately, people seem to look down upon people that are associated with porn in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not a fan of porn, but I'm just saying you got to look at the person they were and would still be if they were still alive, and not just on these little nuances, these little things that happen. Actually, you say Daria Nicolodi was a better actress than Monroe. Would have been great. I don't know if I could, in my opinion, if I could say she was a better actress than Monroe. I like them both equally, um, but that's just me. TJ, you say agreed, X-Ray. Monroe was fine, but yeah. TJ, you say Deranged is another Maniac movie I like. Yeah, but I feel like I talked about Deranged recently. TJ is why I didn't have this one in there in this group. You say it's Texas Chainsaw meets Psycho. It's also another version of Killer Ed Gein with Tom Savini effects. Exactly. John, you say he was the godfather of Stallone's kid Sage. Yep, he was. He certainly was. Peeping Tom, Jason. Yeah, that's good that you bring that up. I need to go back and I think I've seen Peeping Tom, but it's been a while. I would like to discuss it at some point. TJ said, "Oh, okay, Dana, cool." But again, I'm glad that all of us have so many differing opinions on this stuff, because wouldn't it be such a boring world if everybody totally agreed on everything? Think how boring that would be. And in my streams, and I don't ever want it to get this way. Um, in the streams that I have done, there's never been like any heated arguments or calling somebody stupid or a dumbass, or you're just crazy because I think we've all been very mellow about we don't turn them into disagreements. It's just a difference of opinion. Brandon's probably gonna knock my astronaut projector over if he keeps going around it. But guys, this has been fun. I enjoyed talking about these movies. I loved the additions that you guys put into the chat. Um, TJ, you said, by the way, 2000 Maniacs never soured me towards people from the South. LOL. Well, that's good to know, TJ. Um, but guys, it is almost 11 o'clock, and I know, it's a work week. And so I know that a lot of you guys have got to get some rest. Uh, I'm, like I said, not feeling exactly good. And I've already taken my shower and everything. So I think I'm going to eat a little something and watch a little TV and then try to get to sleep so that I can return to work, at least work from home tomorrow. So, again, I want to thank all of you guys for joining me tonight. I think we had a pretty good crowd, pretty good discussion. And so I'm going to skedaddle on out of here for the night. I want to remind everybody that tomorrow night I will be doing my final installment of Argento versus Fulci. We just got 4 films total to cover on that, so everybody come on into that. If you're not doing anything else, don't have anything else you want to watch, come on in the stream. And as always, anybody that wants to join in live on the stream with me, just let me know and I will send you the link for it. Thank you, TJ. You say rest well. So with all that being said, I'm going to skedaddle on out of here, guys, and I will see everybody on the flip side. Y'all have a good night now.